That's okay. Thank you.
Record it.
Thank you,
And
guys.
anything we miss, we can go back and transcribe and put an audio and send to you as well, okay? Okay, so here we go. So I want to just highlight the key problems. And, we could go into a lot more detail on any of these, but I think you probably are familiar somewhat with some of these. Okay, these are well documented. Public safety problem. Public safety includes a lot of different things, including the physical harm that comes from microwave radiation. I want to reiterate, we got over 20,000 peer-reviewed and government studies going back well over 100 years now that document this. I work in the area of imaging, so I understand the kind of things you can do with microwaves that go well beyond heating effects that most of us are familiar with. We want to remove the privacy and security problems that 4G and 5G, including there's no real secure way to protect data and identities. These have already been stolen using 4G and 5G wireless technology. We know that property values plummet by an average 20%. Multiple studies have shown this. As soon as a tower is being proposed to go in a neighborhood and physically is placed there, the HUD, Housing and Urban Development, refers to this as a nuisance and a hazard right on their website, okay? This is also a potential major liability for the city of Tucson because we don't believe they are covered for insurance from damage due to non-ionizing microwave radiation. That's known as exclusion 32. You cannot get an insurance policy to cover that. So we'd like to see the insurance policy to make sure there isn't a liability problem. So one of the things that I know that the city is also looking at relates to co-location. We want to clearly define co-location and co-location, whether it's got a hyphen or not, based on how it's defined by the FCC and many other places in the law. However, since 2017, there's been a little tweaking in the definition. We don't like that definition. We want to go back to how it's defined in the original laws. And that is that placement of equipment, including antennas, must be on existing structures that already have antennas on it. Okay, not 15 feet away. We've saw a lot of pictures of boxes significant distance from the tower. That really should not be permissible, and there needs to be pushback on that right away. This is not happening in other places. Okay. So it's that little change, according to the 1996 Telecommunications Conference report, was not the intent of that provision to give preferential treatment to the personal wireless service industry. So the fact that adjacent to is suddenly shown up in the state law is not acceptable, and they can be denied according to the federal law and definitions of co-location. We ask for retrofitting as part of the process, including co-location. Next. So as I mentioned, inherent in the Telecommunications Act is to promote the safety of life and property. Okay, this is all over the place. We have the right to regulate that. Why? Next slide. Okay, the city has a duty to protect safety and life and property. 47 US Code 332, it's the stated purpose. Read it there and you will find public safety right there. In addition, we have the inalienable rights enshrined in the Arizona and US constitutions, as well as the loyalty oath office taken by our elected officials. Finally, we often quote HB 2365 9-593B. We've heard this many times. An authority may not prohibit, regulate, or charge for the co-location of small wireless telecommunications facilities. How many times have we heard that? However, let's look at the blue part there, except as provided in this section, and I'm going to highlight sections 9592 for the next slide.
Hey, Mr. Witte?
Yes.
You're getting a little loud. It's hard. It's breaking up in my headphones. You kind of.
Oh yeah, you could probably take it down a few notches, Russ.
Okay. So usually it's hard for people to hear me, so I'll just.
I can hear you perfectly.
And we're excited.
And you're telling the truth. That's the best part.
Yeah, go
I know you're
ahead.
far away, so I don't know how far away you are. Okay. So HB 2365 really calls for local protection of public safety, and here it is right in 592, which is one of the exceptions to 593. An authority shall approve an application unless the authority finds that the utility pole fails to comply with any of the following, okay? Number one, local code provisions on regulations that concern any of the following. A, public safety. Wow, look at that. Now, there's other things there that I think are also important: reasonable stealth and concealment requirements. Did you see any effort to conceal some of those huge boxes that are appearing all over next to towers around the city? I believe that is not lawful. So the city can put this into their ordinance to protect us from other things there in addition to public safety. The third thing also says the authority's public safety and reasonable spacing requirements that concern the location of new utility poles in a right of way. Okay, so that is reasons to deny a permit application. These are just examples. This is really important. The city has the legal authority and duty to regulate operations. So that's the fourth leg of regulating WTFs. The preemption refers to placement, construction, and modification, as known as the 1996 Telecommunications Act, and the state law, the ALEC law, which is HB 2365. However, I want to keep reiterating this point because we're going to take advantage of this in the new ordinance. Operations has never been preempted, and the city has tremendous control if they take advantage of this. And I'm documenting here the 1996 Telecommunication Act, never preempted. The US Supreme Court has confirmed that multiple times, and the US House and Senate conference report reiterates this. We have say in regulating operations. Next. The first thing we want to do for regulating operations is to take advantage of federal law 47 US Code 324. It's one of the most important things in that law because it was designed to protect public safety. And that is the minimum power in all circumstances that the radio, including wireless telecommunications, shall use the minimum amount of power necessary. Now, we want to refer to effective radiated power because that's what we talk about when we talk about minimum power. That's the amount of power that reaches the antenna. The city can control that and cap that with a fuse, for example, to make sure that not any more than it's absolutely not necessary to provide 5 bars on a cell phone, which is wireless telecommunication service. That's already been figured out by industry. And that's what the city is required to provide. We can do that through the use of a report card. When the carriers are providing power, effective radiated power, above that range, you can see the range that are specified. That's enough to provide 5 bars in a cell phone. No problem, we approve that. However, when you start delivering much more power, and by the way, some of these and many of these, if not most of the small cells, are delivering 1,000 to 10,000 times more power than that's necessary to provide 5 bars on a cell phone tower. That is a public safety disaster in waiting, okay? Next. And this is my final slide, going back to highlighting what we want to do. We want to enforce co-location to the best of our ability, okay? We want to limit effective radiated power, as I just described with the report card. We may have to go back and retrofit many small cells to comply with state and federal law and ensure minimum power is being used. We may require NEPA review, as the FCC lawyer Rosenberg stated as recently as 3 months ago. All permit applications, no exceptions, must undergo NEPA review. We want to encourage and push for more fiber to the premises. One great way to do that is a sharing box. Let us have access to that fiber optic network. Let's take it to our homes if we want to choose to do that. We want to be able to think about ways to compensate for the loss in property value. This should not be put as a burden on the homeowner, seeing people now selling their properties as soon as they hear that these towers are going in front. One of the great things is that this could also generate revenue from the city by using the retrofitting concept of placing a fuse to ensure minimum power necessary, and other ideas for policing fees. I don't believe this is built into the current ordinance, and policing and fuses should be like other cities are doing right now. Okay, thank you. Karen, would you like to take over?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Karen Rolig, and I'm a commercial and residential real estate broker, Phoenix and Tucson. And when I heard about this, I immediately contacted with Bradford, who you'll hear from in a moment, to, we all know that the city and the staff is super busy. And one of the things that I provide for my clients is as much detailed, complete information as I possibly can. And normally in the old days before COVID, et cetera, I would go down to the city and pull up all the records, however they were. Since things have changed, Brad and I have been working together, and I gave him a list of the things that normally we put together for a complete package. But unfortunately, Brad hasn't been able to locate that, and I've kind of jumped in to try to find it. And so we're having a little trouble getting all the data. We've gotten some of it, but there's a lot that's missing. So it's hard for us to give you a complete package to save you time. So we need a little help there. I know we've contacted Sam through Bradford too. So we need help to get all the data so you know exactly what to do and where to go with this. I mean, it is legal to provide all the data, so I'm not sure, maybe that's something work in progress, but that's something we really need help with to do this. Bradford, do you have
Let me
anything?
just jump in and say that we've worked with cities all across the United States. No one has had problem getting the antenna specs and the radio specs of what's being put in the public rights of way. It's just like requiring all the materials if you're going to put up a fence or build a wall or put in a pool. You don't allow us to hide the materials that we're going to use in that construction. The same thing applies to wires companies. Every other city will easily provide this upon request. What are the antennas they're putting in there? What is the model number? What is the manufacturer? Same thing for the radios. Only when you have that can you understand what is its maximum public power output. That's the problem that we're having. We're only getting part of the story. You need to provide it all legally. That's
So
the point.
that's the only other piece, is just we would wish to inspect and review the records. So I'm gonna bounce it to Heidi.
Calling Heidi Miller.
Heidi Miller, you might be muted.
Yeah, you're muted. There you
My
go.
apologies. So we have a solution that's called the triple FF for the retrofit. We have a fiber optic sharing box for every one of these 450 small cells that are going in or are already up, because access to the public rights of way must be for the public benefit. So if we're getting fiber to the premises from each of those antennas that are going up, that'll benefit everyone in the public, and that is in line with the city plan. Number two is a filter to remove the dangerous conducted emissions, the dirty electricity that's created by small wireless transmission facility equipment. And number three is a fuse box on every pole.
No, can you just answer for both of us?
It'll be city owned and city controlled, and you are going to make a good amount of money, and you can make a lot of money right away. We're going to start at $25,000 for the first offense exceeding the minimum power, and second strike is $50,000, and third strike is $100,000 fine, and you need to retrofit at any one of those points.
Thanks, Heidi. Thank you.
Would you like to go to the website?
I think Wendy is next. and
Wendy
then-
was good. Yeah, Wendy.
Okay, go ahead, Wendy.
And just make sure you're unmuted, Wendy.
Yeah. Hi. I mean, obviously there's a point here that there's way too much power and there are solutions. And I want the city, I really want you guys to get that we want to thread this needle with you. You know, we understand that there's a lot going on. We know there's not an instant solution, but we can figure out a way to make it all work. So I just want to acknowledge you for your time and your commitment to hearing what we have to say.